Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. We're here, Matt, on the eve of your vacation. I guess we should say it right now, even though we've been alluding to it for the past, what was it now, Matt? Last 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. It was our go-to introductory topic of our episode, and sorry to all our friends out there, but Matt, you're going on vacation for 4 weeks, and
Yes.
I guess this is the last mainline, quote-unquote, episode
Mainline.
for the next little while we technically go on hiatus, but I guess it will become really apparent for the next 4 episodes after this one, where over the past few weeks, we recorded some episodes for The Vault. Matt, bless his heart, put them together, and they'll be, coming at you on your regularly scheduled podcast date. But until then, you'll be listening to us, but not really listening to us, if you know what I'm saying. Where Matt, you'll be enjoying your time, and I'll be trucking along. A little ominous there, but Matt, I'll be honest. Not in the highest of spirits today, unfortunately.
What's wrong?
Matt, I'm going to continue to treat the Mistake Zone as our audio diary. And Matt, to be honest, when you're working on a project of sorts and it doesn't go your way and you're kind of dealing with the aftermath of just feeling that bummer state, where, Matt, I'm in that bummer state right now, and it's hard for me to shake off. Where, a little context.
Okay.
So we're renovating our office area right now, and I moved my setup to, one of the spare bedrooms, our guest bedroom, essentially. And, everything's okay here in this regard. Just some reshuffling around. Desk is a lot more crowded, but that's okay. Anyway, we're renovating the office, and hopefully when we return proper to the Mistake Zone, that will be done. I'll have a cool backdrop for our video podcast that we don't actually do. But not part of our renovation is changing the light fixture, or, the central lighting in the middle of the room, where we've done that in the past previously. We've done it a few times, for our kitchen, the dining area, the cooking area of the kitchen with the stove and whatnot, where, okay, we're going to take out the old light. We're going to pop in this new light. Good to go. Matt, the light in the office was sort of different than, in the kitchen and the kitchen area and the dining room, where it was wired differently. And let's just say it didn't go it didn't go as smoothly as the 3 other times. And that, I am bummed, where I'm not sure if our light fixture is fried. I think it's that mindset of, I'm kind of glad our house isn't burned down. Where,
oh, man. Oh, damn.
Matt, there were some sparks, Matt. There were some sparks. So don't feel the greatest right now. And if I had to be honest, Matt, the kick in the pants. Didn't realize an eBay watch I was watching, or an eBay auction I was watching, ended during the middle of this fiasco, and missed out on my Hololive Choco card, Matt. That went for $50. Matt, missed out. I could have won that. I feel like it was a good price point. It was a PSA 10, by the way. I feel like I could have won this card, and just a kick in the pants all around. Not in the highest of spirits, Matt, which is a shame, because I look forward to chatting with you, chopping it up every week. But Matt, I'm currently debating, because we both know, if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't, push further with electrical.
Yeah.
Where we're looking at some TaskRabbit help, and I feel like that's the best route of direction here, especially after you see Sparks, Matt. That's flying too close to the sun. So
yeah.
gotta get that looked at, and hopefully by the time you get back in a few weeks, the office will be done. The house will still be intact, but oh man, Matt, that was my evening today, and I know I originally wanted to kind of tell you about going to another card expo, but Matt, the weather goofed us as well, where we didn't drive up because there was a special, like, a special weather warning or whatever. And then we wake up this morning, Matt, decided not to go, and then we check Weather Network. Matt, they took out the weather warning.
They got you, Jaren. They got you.
They got us, Matt. They got us. But that's in the past now. We're here in the present. Me and one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba, with another episode of Mistake Zone. So Matt, gotta ask you for the last time, how's your preparation for the big trip?
I think I have everything almost like generally ready. I have all the stuff I ordered from Amazon in. I have all like the stuff I wanted to buy bought, and now it's all just a matter of fitting it into the suitcase, which I don't think will be too bad because I don't think I'm really bringing all that much extra stuff.
Okay, that's fair, Matt. That's fair. Oh man, Matt. It's coming up real fast. Matt, how early is your flight?
Oh man. My flight out is at 1:50 p.m.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. Okay, man. But yeah, I think in the meantime, Matt, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to play while you're gone.
Joe, you should get into like, if you're really gonna get serious into trucking, do some American Truck Simulator or something.
Fair enough. Matt, I was at a EB Games the other day where unfortunately I found a clearance figure that for $10 that I wanted to pick up. And unfortunately, Matt, I was behind a father and son duo trying to trade in a box of stuff.
Oh,
and
man.
Matt, one of the things in their box of stuff that they were trading in were a couple of games, a Nintendo Switch, and a racing wheel where the EB Games clerk, really nice, really friendly guy. Matt, I wasn't being served, but I still gave the guy service. I'll give him a good 10 out of 10 because, he was up front. He said, hey, us at EB Games, we don't take steering wheels like these types of controllers. But here are some other video game places that, are more mom and pop, are more kind of retro. Maybe you can try trading it in at one of these places. Matt, that's a pretty good recommendation. The EB Games guy didn't take the Nintendo Switch because he said, hey, if you come in tomorrow to trade in the Nintendo Switch, we actually have our trade-in promotion starting tomorrow, so you'll get a bit extra. Good service, Matt. Good service. And then he traded in like 5 games and only got like $60 from it. Matt, classic EB Games.
Oh, but Jaren, man, you can't even buy one of those games for $60 anymore, probably.
It's nuts now, Matt. It's nuts. But the whole point of the story is he traded that credit towards another Logitech steering wheel where even with his $60 credit, I'm being a nosy Nancy. I hear that the total was still over $400. And Matt, that man probably is either trucking or race simulating or both, Matt. Matt dedicated to the craft where I always want to say I want to get my own racing steering wheel, but I feel like as much as I love racing games, I don't play enough to justify a steering wheel. So
yeah.
I got to ask you, Matt, are there any peripherals that you would like to have, but you can't justify?
I mean, I think I also would like an actual racing like wheel setup with like proper pedals and everything.
Right.
But those are expensive, Jaren. And I feel like, okay, so I think like for a decent end one that I was like looking at, that seemed decent to me. It seemed like at the low end, it was going to run me like I think like 170 ish for like a decent low end one. And I almost figure at that price point, I might as well, move up to the like
Yeah, yeah.
$200 or $300 like price point and like see how those go.
I feel like with hardware such as that, it was kind of the same thing when the Mad Catz tournament edition fighting sticks were on the market, and Mad Catz
Mm-hmm.
was actually a functioning company.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're going to invest, you might as well pay the extra, amount for the premium or quote unquote premium product to get, the most out of your money because it would
Mm-hmm.
suck trying to buy a entry level one that, just isn't there fully. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
man, I agree. I think a racing wheel setup and then, everyone when you tell people that you wouldn't mind a racing wheel setup, that's when the floodgates kind of open, and then they send you all these various links of check out, this steel cage, controller
Oh
holder or
man.
whatever, and it's like, man, I have a friend who's really into flight sims, and Matt, talk about
Oh
uh,
man.
investment for a game. But I digress. Shout out to the EB Games clerk. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
you can have the final word on peripherals.
Jared, I've always thought that I think if I ever had like, just a ridiculous amount of money, like I think the 6 axis setup is like probably one of the first like dumb things I'll buy.
Oh man, would you have a room dedicated to it, Matt?
Oh, of course, Jared. I think I'd even just have like a specific like PC dedicated to it.
That's fair, Matt. That's
Mm-hmm.
fair.
Mm-hmm.
One day, Matt. One
One day.
day,
One
I
day.
believe. But until then,
Mm-hmm.
Matt, at least we have our our own battle stations here in the
Mm-hmm.
mistake
Mm-hmm.
zone. And again, I had to relocate in the guest bedroom. Dust's pretty crowded. I'm at that point where one of my monitor, like my secondary monitor, is kind of a portion of it is not only blocked by the Xbox, but a portion of it's also kind of blocked by my main monitor. So not ideal,
Mm-hmm.
Matt. Not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, um, I'll have this all under control. Matt, good time for us to go on our mini hiatus. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
until then, Matt, let's just get into it. And if there's only one thing to get into at the start of the show, it's
Oh man.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
Jaren's Kira Kira Sparkling Water review. And
Oh man.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
peek behind the curtains once
Uh-huh.
again,
Uh-huh.
where I'm looking at our power rankings, and technically, I have it where there are a few, entries here that I haven't technically spoke about
Mm-hmm.
until later in the hiatus, the vault episodes,
Mm-hmm.
where I think maybe in 4 weeks' time, uh, I might have run into a problem where one of the ones I rated in the future
Uh-huh.
um, will probably not. The one I'm rating this week won't be mentioned in the future, but
Mm-hmm.
that just keep that in mind. Just keep that in
That's
mind.
just classic time travel hijinks, Jared.
And the reason I mentioned this is because Matt, this week
Mm-hmm.
I'm back in the Bubly camp.
Uh-huh.
Um, my Bubly pop tab says howdy on top, and Matt,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking a raspberry bubbly where, me, Matt, I love me a good raspberry beverage,
Mm-hmm.
but realistically, I'm looking at the power rankings right now. It's if this goes the way I'm going, this will probably just be a head to head with is this better than the LaCroix black raspberry beverage? But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
who knows, Matt? Who knows? Maybe it isn't up to snuff compared to some of the other drinks, but let's try some bubbly raspberry. Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely taste the raspberry where, yeah, I think for me personally, Matt, when I have a good artificial raspberry, I'm guessing it really does remind me of a good raspberry. And when I think about nostalgic fruit, personally, Matt, I feel like raspberries are up there just because every time I taste a raspberry, I think back to my youth as a child visiting my grandparents and them having a neighbor whose raspberry plant grew through their fence and me
Eh.
eating said raspberries in the summer. Matt, core childhood memory.
Oh
And drinking
man.
bubbly raspberry is bringing me back to that, to me being a little thief and stealing neighbors' raspberries. Matt, those were good times. Those were good. A simpler time, Matt. A simpler time. So, Matt, does the assignment taste like raspberry? It is refreshing. It's a bubbly beverage, of course. I think one of the better bubblies I've had, maybe behind Mary Berry Bubbly, but Matt, here's where we kind of have to, judge it in our power rankings, where I'm looking at, LaCroix's Black Raspberry. And would I prefer a bubbly raspberry over a LaCroix Black Raspberry? Matt, I think I would. I think I would, to be honest. But
Okay.
now, this brings me to the question: would I prefer it over a LaCroix Key Lime? And that, I think the nostalgia element, I have to edge this over the LaCroix Key Lime as well, where I think this will go at a solid, let's say, this will become the new number 5 above the LaCroix Key Lime, but under the President's Choice Cranberry Ginger Ale, where, again, Matt, it's your basic raspberry bubbly, but I think that's what I like about it because it brings me back to a youthful Jaren, a childlike Jaren, full of wonder, full of hope, full of, before I made a boo-boo, when the only boo-boos were on my knees and not my office ceiling. So Matt, that's my rating of the bubbly raspberry flavor. Good 5th place. You can do a lot worse. You can kind of do better, but you can do a lot worse where it's a solid beverage. So Matt, again, not a hashtag ad, not hashtag sponsored, but hashtag delicious. And you know what? Hashtag youth.
Jared, if you had a 6-axis like racing wheel setup, or just like general like car sim setup, would you put a what do you call it?
Cup holder
there? Yeah.
Oh man, Matt. I feel like you have to. Matt, if you're already that deep, I feel like you have to. As someone who is a make-believe enthusiast and not a real enthusiast, I bet like if you are a proper enthusiast, you probably don't. But in my head, as a dreamer, if you will, I dream of a 6-axis racing setup with a cup holder that is holding a sparkling water beverage.
Nice.
But Matt, one day, but until now, I'll place my can on my desk and, have one more sip for the road. So, Matt, I'm a bit conflicted with how I want to open this segment because, on the one hand, I want to say, speaking about, fond memories from youth, but in saying that, that's coupled with, some heartbreaking news that we received this week, and that legendary manga artist, legendary creator, Akira Toriyama, unfortunately passed away on March 1st at the age of 68. And that, such a loss to, a lot of the mediums and, forms of media that we follow, especially the manga realm, especially the anime realm. Of course, Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball, character designer for games such as like the Dragon Quest series, for Chrono Trigger, and someone who, honestly, Matt, if there was a Mount Rushmore of, just manga creators, anime creators, artists from that field, of course, Akira Toriyama would be on said Mount Rushmore, just given his impact, given what he brought to the world, and just all the fond memories to come from what he has done in his life. Because where I know I saw this one tweet last week, you know, just seeing the outpour of love and just gratitude to Akira Toriyama, and that sentiment of this man was responsible for countless friendships, or ways to break the ice to start friendships. And
Mm-hmm.
Matt, when I think about Dragon Ball in particular, it's hard not to really think of or sorry, how should I put this, Matt? When I think
Mm-hmm.
about Dragon Ball and growing up, it's so hard not to think of so many memories of not only meeting new friends, but just having a piece of common interest to help, grow closer to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And, just such unfortunate news. Have to give a shout out to one of the goats, Matt, but have to ask you, when it comes to Dragon Ball or even any of Akira Toriyama's work, what are some of those fond memories that kind of instantly come to you?
And I think like there's always the memories of rushing home just to watch the latest episode of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z that's on
Yep.
TV after school. But like I think one that is kind of like not exactly related to Akira Toriyama and stuff, but like in a kind of change that he caused on the playground
Hmm.
that I remember is the transition of playing like pretend cops and robbers with like
Right.
fake guns and stuff to kids running around and like throwing fake energy beams and kamehamehas at each other.
Matt, that is
Hmm.
so true. Just kind of that shift of playground pretend on recess. And yeah, I can definitely, for some reason, when I think about, playing pretend on the schoolyard, the first one that comes up is Men in Black for some reason, just because that was also a big movie. But I
Hmm.
also remember when everyone started, pretending to be Super Saiyans,
Hmm.
everyone kind of
Hmm.
dividing when you're playing tag of, oh, I'm going to be, a Saiyan, or you can be like Frieza, or you can be Cell. And
Hmm.
just saying Kamehameha when
Oh
whipping a
man.
tennis ball. Those are kind of burned into my head. And
Oh
I
god.
think for me, some specific memories are uh, so with us growing up, we had something called YTV. That
Hmm.
was Channel 25 for me personally, but I remember specifically it was one of my either my seventh, eighth, or ninth birthday. And I kind of remember staying up until 12 for my birthday to hit, and then always remembering that YTV would play the original Dragon Ball at 1 a.m. And
Hmm.
that was always something I would look forward to if I could stay awake. And then, of course, as you said, Matt, 5:30 Dragon Ball Z, remember the Frieza saga, remembering the Cell
Hmm.
saga, and just calling my friends after a good episode or when an arc ended and just having to talk about that episode because you couldn't wait until the next day. And even just more recently, Matt, I've talked about it on the Mistake Zone, watching Dragon Ball Super, Superhero in 4DX, or my introduction to the 4DX experience,
Uh-huh.
Matt,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
even till today, where it's, it's unfortunate. Condolences to his friends and families, but man, what a run, Matt. What a impact on the industry as a whole. And pour one out, Matt. Pour one out. I'd pour
Hmm.
out
Hmm.
my bubbly, but don't want to make a mess. But it's
Uh-huh.
there in spirit.
Hmm.
And yeah, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. Matt,
Hmm.
it's going to be. I wonder. I know this is going to sound kind of morbid in a sense, but with your trip coming up, I wonder how many tributes you'll see if you find yourself in like Akihabara or just anywhere in
Hmm.
general. Where
I'm actually
Matt,
curious about that as
yeah,
well because like I am not going to be in Tokyo until like 3 weeks into my trip.
hmm,
So I'm wondering how much, because I'm sure right now there's definitely stuff there that's probably like paying tribute to Akira Toriyama. But I am wondering like how many are going to be there once I end up there later.
Maybe it's one of those. It's not at outright in the front of the store, but I bet if you looked around that, you would. You'll probably see a shrine or a dedication somewhere. So maybe something to
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye
Mm-hmm.
out on. But yes, shout out to the great works of Akira Toriyama. Rest in peace and condolences to the friends and family. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
gotta do just one last pretend Kamehameha for the man himself.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I once again tackled my Steam backlog trying to pick something for no recent activities, and I came across a game that I think I purchased a year or two ago, but it unfortunately, you know, again fell into the backlog where I kind of forgot about it. But luckily, scrolled past it and I thought, hey, this might be the perfect opportunity to play Dunk Lords. Matt,
Oh, okay. What is?
if
Mm-hmm.
you know me,
Mm-hmm.
I love me some arcade basketball, specifically of the NBA Street variety, but also the NBA Jam variety. And I feel that Dunk Lords takes a lot of inspiration from NBA Jam just because this is a 2-on-2 arcade basketball game at its core, really reminiscent of NBA Jam. You can see it in
Mm-hmm.
its foundation, but as an indie title, it it falls more so into the wacky territory just because if you look at the cover of Dunk Lords or the Steam cover of Dunk Lords, you
Mm-hmm.
have your main character Slice facing off against a strawberry creature and there's a robot in the background firing a laser at him, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the energy of Dunk Lords, where it's this, I guess, not necessarily Mutant League football adjacent, but it has a cast of colorful characters where even though you have Slice, who's a normie, you also have a robot, you have this strawberry man, you have someone who looks like the Toxic Crusader, you have a giant bear, you have a anamorphic cat, you have a space alien pirate, you
Mm-hmm.
have a ghost daughter, and you have this mishmash of characters that come together to play, basketball, Matt. And the story, it has a story mode where you follow the main character Slice, or I believe his name is Slice, and he has enrolled into Matt
Mm-hmm.
Dunk Baby Academy to work his way towards becoming a Dunk Lord. And
Okay.
the story behind Dunk Lords is you sign up to go to this academy to not only become a better baller, but to learn from, I believe, Maurice, who was, once a Dunk Lord. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
Maurice went missing. So you, as Slice, travel around trying to solve the mystery of where he is and kind of uncover this. Matt, tell me if you hear this before. Conspiracy of a underground uh, robot training facility to make artificial or, to have more efficient dunk lords.
Jaren, I can
Yes.
honestly tell you I've never heard that one before.
But Matt, you get the
Mm-hmm.
premise, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You're trying to find your mentor or a supposed mentor, and there's alternatively there's a you know tech-based robot or something in the
Mm-hmm.
background. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, during your search, you meet a cast of different characters, and it's just really zany, Matt. That's kind of the energy it has. Where in Dunk Lords, all your conflict is solved by winning a game of basketball. And I think
Uh-huh.
with Dunk Lords, as I said, it is really inspired by NBA Jam, but it does some things that make it really arcadey, where there are different environments. For example, you might be playing on a court being held up by a crane that swings the court back and forth. Or you might be in a robot production plant where, oh no, the power goes out like every couple of, or like at random intervals. So you're playing in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, maybe lightning will start striking every now and then. So, the courts have these different mechanics that you also have to deal with. But
Yeah.
in there, you have, if I shoot from this section, I'll get money. Or if I shoot from this section, I'll get, an ability point that lets me use an ability. Just because with each of the different characters, they have their own abilities. You have your basic kind of attack, and then you have a charged attack where this can range from, I'm just going to send a shockwave in front of me to, I'm going to throw down a turret that's just going to shoot people.
Amazing.
Where it's kind of like, and then in between there, you have your basic NBA Jam moves of, okay, I can steal, I can dash, and if you dash into someone, you can steal. You have your energy that lets you sprint, and then if you sprint while running towards a basket, you can do a dunk. So, and then of course, you can also use your sprint to uppercut people, because of course, Matt, of
course.
And the thing I like about Dunk Lords, where, I'm going to say it, Matt, if this was a bigger developer, I feel like they could have fleshed this out a la like Tape to Tape, that hockey roguelite game where you earn money, and in between the quarters, you actually get access to a store to buy different power-ups for you and your teammate for that round only, where, maybe I want gloves that makes it harder for your opponent to steal from you. Or if I get these type of shoes, if I do a dash, it will leave like flames behind me. Or I'm gonna get some armor, so it's harder for them to knock me down. And I feel like that element is really cool. And again, that leads itself to being a roguelite if the concept wanted to be explored kind of further. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of what you would expect. It plays like NBA or reminiscent of NBA Jam, just with all these little quirks that make it really arcadey. And it kind of made me wish, I had a buddy to play split screen, just because when you face off against the computer, it's not necessarily that challenging. I know there were some instances where you fight, boss characters from the story mode that, seems a bit kind of difficult until you realize, I can just cheese it this way or that way, where I want to experience Dunk Lords like pure competition, Matt, instead of kind of cheesing against the CPU. But other than that, it's a decent game. It is an indie game, so not all the bells and whistles are there. I think in terms of the story mode, I think right now I've played close to 2 hours, and I think I'm 70% of the way finished. Man, I haven't found Maurice yet.
True.
But, relatively short. I think the thing that especially threw me off, Matt, is when I went to the settings, there was no audio options, which also threw me off.
Oh, what the hell?
That was kind of odd, because Matt kind of allowed on startup, so I had to go into the system settings to turn it down. But yeah, if you're looking for just a zany arcade basketball game reminiscent of NBA Jam, just with some funny characters and some unique power-ups, check out Dunk Lords. I think right now it is like $11.50 Canadian regular price, but I believe I bought this on the Steam sale for like half that. So, check it out if you're just looking for a quick arcade basketball fix, just because, Matt, honestly, can't think of any other arcade basketball games on Steam right now. And as much as I want to play NBA Jam, I think On Fire Edition, which came out maybe even a decade ago, I believe that's been delisted. So,
damn,
trying to find my NBA Jam fix where I can. And Dunk Lords, good small title that scratches that itch just a bit, but check it out if you think that might be your NBA Jam, but not actually NBA Jam.
So, Jaren, I think this is going to be another, kind of temporal weird thing with how we recorded our bonus episodes, because I think in next week's episode, I'm going to be talking about a game that I dropped to play, the game that I'm about to talk about, which is Last Epoch.
All right.
Jaren, Last Epoch is a ARPG in this same vein as like Diablos, as like Path of Exile,
Okay.
as like that's sort of game like Grim Dawn, like that sort of game where
Right.
you are creating a character, leveling them up, picking skills, getting item drops, and getting onto that good loot treadmill.
Of course. Matt, as
Hmm.
you do in an ARPG.
Hmm. 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 And Jaren, this is a very like interesting change or interesting like take on a RPGs for me, because this game I think isn't trying to do so much.
Right.
I think that Jaren, I think the where I land in terms of what I want out of ARPGs is basically exactly where Last Epoch is, because this is the game that is not as complicated. It's a bit more casual friendly than Path of Exile, and it is more chunky and crunchy and complicated than Diablo 4.
Okay.
So
And
if you're
Matt,
looking for the
you've
middle
been playing
ground,
a lot of Diablo lately, so I feel like you should know where this is coming from.
like Jaren, I think like as far as Diablo games go, I think I'm in the kind of like maybe like sort of minority-ish that really enjoyed Diablo 3.
Hmm.
I think that was like one of my favorite Diablo franchises because everything in there felt so like quick. It felt so, I don't know, everything like kind of clicked for me in that game, and it wasn't like overly complicated. It wasn't it had a lot of quality of life that I really really liked, and it just didn't bog me down. It was a nice light game, and that's what I really liked about it.
It was a comfort game for you.
It
Yeah.
was very much a comfort game for me. And Last Epoch, I think, is going to be taking its place. Um, because there's just so much stuff in this game that I like. Because like kind of just to get down into what I actually really do like about this game is that the game itself, it's not one of those like, okay, you need to get to 100 to have like your real end game start.
Right.
Your end game really starts around, I want to say like 50-ish, and then the leveling process gets you to 100, and that is kind of like the early end game to mid end game part of the game, which is I think is like nice to have and have be interesting.
Because that
But
was one of your issues with Diablo 4, was it not?
yeah, I think my issue with Diablo 4 was that the grind to get to 100 is just so bad.
Right.
But like even along the way, the Last Epoch takes a lot of itemization, I guess, like qualities from Diablo 2, which for a lot of people is kind of like the pinnacle of like, classic ARPG itemization. And it works well with its kind of leveling speed, because this is the type of itemization where an item dropped early in your leveling process isn't tied to your level.
Right.
So it still can remain useful later on in the game, which is something that I really like to see.
Yeah.
And I think even further, Jaren, what I really like is its skill system. Its skill system is, I think, for me, what really kind of like pushes it forward for me, because I think that if you took the skill, or like more specifically the passive tree in this game, it is kind of a big passive tree for your character. Every character starts as a base class, something like
Oh.
like a mage or a rogue
Yeah.
or whatever.
How many are
And
there starter?
there are right now 5 starter classes. I believe
Okay.
it's like mage, rogue, sentinel, primalist, and acolyte.
Matt,
And
those
then they
sound
can,
like, starter ass
yeah,
ARPG classes.
those are like starter as like a RPG classes, and then they can each starting class can level into 3 different, I guess, like advanced classes. I'm not really, I
Okay.
can't remember what masteries. Masteries is the word
Right.
that they use. And those include things like Forge Knight, Rune Mage, Blade Master, like Warlock.
Is there a necromancer?
Yes,
equivalent?
there is a necromancer.
Nice, nice.
Like shaman. Like it's like stuff like that. Like, the nice and like, weighty class names. And each and every one of those classes has their own kind of small-ish passive tree, where each passive tree is like for your base class, there's maybe like, 20 nodes that you can read through. And like, that's not a little, that's not a lot. It's like just enough for you to like, take a bit of time to like read through everything, but not so long that you're doing so much, I guess, like theory crafting.
Yeah.
And even if you want to do theory crafting, the respecking in this game is pretty easy, or like pretty like not pain free, like cost free, not necessarily like cost free, but like it doesn't hurt to respec.
Nice.
Like it may take a bit long because like I think the way that they do it is that you have to respec one point out at a time. So it
Oh,
does
right,
get
right.
a little bit like long to do it that way. But like overall, it's not like it's gonna cost you a lot of in-game resources to do, which I really like because I feel
Hmm.
like for me, in a RPG that doesn't allow you to easily respec is just a game I don't have time for anymore.
Right.
And then each mastery has like 30 to 40 or so nodes in their passive tree. The nice thing about those is that the first half of each mastery tree is available no matter which mastery you select for your character specifically. So for example, if I have an acolyte and their masteries are warlock, necromancer, and lich, if I were to be a warlock, I can still pick stuff from the necromancer and lich trees
Okay. Fair.
up until like a certain like point in those trees, which I think is like a nice little change,
Yeah.
or like nice little like system. I mean, but the skills themselves, Jared, is I think where this game becomes, I think, super interesting for me because the skills themselves are really skill trees. It's not that like the skill tree contains skills. Its skills are the skill trees. Because kind of similar to Diablo 3, where, as you level up, you unlock skills at like certain, level points. That is what is happening in Last Epoch. Like, oh, when you hit level 5, you gain like Fireball. And then when you hit level like 10, you gain like a Fire Orb or whatever. In this game, you can master skills. Or, no, sorry, specialize in skills. And you can specialize up to 5 skills. And what that means is that when you specialize a skill, you kind of like, you know, put it into a certain place in this menu, and then your skill becomes kind of like a its own tree. Like every skill in and of itself has a tree associated to how that skill changes. And there's a lot of interesting nodes on there. I mean, of course, there's going to be those kind of like standard nodes where it's like, oh, okay, when you put a point into this node, it, does like 20% more damage, and for like every point you put into this node. But then, since it is a skill tree, it all kind of like links outwards, and you get stuff that really changes up the skills in a way you want. Where it's like, oh, instead of exploding, this skill now loses its explosion, but it now forks and like homes in on other targets.
Oh, I like
Or
a
like,
good homing skill, man.
or like, oh, instead of this skill being centered on you, it's centered on your mouse wherever you like click on it.
Right.
Also, Jared, this game very well supports controller. I actually like
Nice.
the way some classes like play with controller more than like using a mouse and keyboard for this
Matt,
game.
I think that's one thing I appreciate from Diablo 3 the most, where I feel like with Diablo 3 on the console, that kind of is solidified that you can play a ARPG with a controller. And I do like how that's kind of been adopted by a lot of the big ones to come out, recently. So when you tell me a ARPG has a good controller support, Matt, I'm a bit more interested.
But like, yeah, like I was saying, the skills all are able to like really change themselves because like even within like kind of just changing the kind of like way the skill travels, you can also change things like the skill changes from being a physical damage skill to like cold damage. Or hey, this skill used to do bleed, but now when you pick like this node, it loses the ability to do bleed, and now it does poison.
Okay.
And the way the itemization works is that it's a lot of stuff like, hey, we're going to increase your poison damage, we're going to increase your dots damage in general, we're going to increase your physical damage, your cold damage, or just like your stats in general. So the way that you can itemize feels very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this game actually does its items is that instead of like kind of like following the, I guess like it's trying to make smart loot for you. This game has an inbuilt loot filter that you're basically expected to use. Like this is probably like one of the more complicated things for the game if you're just coming into it from a Diablo or something like that. But is like kind of standard in more crunchy ARPGs, where this game drops a lot of loot. This is not a game where you are going to want to pick everything up.
Oh, okay.
You're going to want to use that loot filter to be like, okay, only show me loot that has like, oh, plus skills that I use, or has like, you know, dexterity on it. Like I don't need skills with intelligence because I'm not like an intelligence-based class. Or, oh, I want things that have like, oh, increased minion damage on it because like, oh, I'm gonna be like a necromancer. I'm gonna,
Right.
you know, build a minion class, and like, you can make it so that, oh, if it has like these two kind of like combinations of like, oh, increased minion damage and plus to your summon skeleton skill, like I want you to highlight this in a different way.
I think I really appreciate something like that because, Matt, I understand with an ARPG, you want that loot explosion, but realistically, when I play a loot-based game, half the time when there's an explosion, I'm looking for a specific color. And sometimes and if that color doesn't drop, I'm kind of, you get to that point of, okay, blues, greens, even purples don't mean anything to me. I need my yellows. I need, teals, depending on what game you're playing. And I think, does Diablo have a filtering system like this, or?
None of the Diablo games have like a standard like in-game filter.
Right.
Like if you're modding your game to put a filter into it.
Okay, fair. Because Matt, the way you're describing, and this is in-game in itself.
This is in-game itself. It's like, oh, Control F, it brings up your loot filter.
Oh, that's actually pretty, Matt. That's a insane quality of life thing that I'm surprised isn't just available in all base ARPGs at this point.
And that in and of itself is also very important to how this game does its itemization, because like it does follow the kind of like, oh, you have your normal items, your magic items, and then your rare items, and then you have your like, your set uniques and a bit later like your exalted items.
Yeah.
Where like even your blues and yellows still stay relevant at the end of the game. They can become best in slot gear.
Yeah.
Because of how its crafting system works.
Oh.
Its crafting system is very interesting because you have a lot of control on the RNG that's applied to your items.
Hey, Matt, now you're speaking my language.
Because like you, instead of for like the very kind of like base level of crafting, instead of kind of rolling for what you want on your item, you get these things called affix shards. And affix shards are divided into, like suffixes and prefixes. And like they both have their own kind of like abilities or stats that can be added. And basically the way that you differentiate between like, oh, a white, a blue, and a yellow item is just how many affixes it has. So a white item has no affixes. A blue magic item has 2 or 1 or 2, and then a yellow has 3 or more. So you can kind of like progress an item all the way from like blue, like white, blue to yellow.
I like that, Matt. Matt, if you're sentimental like me and you get a good first drop, I'm gonna try to bring that as far as I can.
And like because they stay relevant, a kind of like thing that becomes important later is even like having your filter be good for knowing what items you would want to pick up, even if you're not going to wear it, because every single item's like stat has a tier to it, where it's like, oh, if it's a tier 1, it's gonna roll between like, oh, this number and this number. If it's tier 2, it's gonna roll between this higher number and this higher number, right?
Yeah.
So what you can do is that when you find a for example, like a high tier item that's like, oh, this like minion damage is like a tier 5 minion damage affix, but the rest of the item is garbage. What you can do is you can break that item, and the higher tier a stat is on a piece of gear when you break it, the more likely you're going to get its affix shards and more of them. So it becomes like still relevant to pick up trash items that you can use to craft things with later, which is like really nice.
Yeah. Nice, Matt. That is cool.
And then like even like the uniques and set stuff, none of those are really, those are all kind of like hard coded in terms of what stats are going to give you. So you are really looking for those to get certain effects out of them. Like you wouldn't end up with a character that's wearing, hey, all uniques or all like a single set. You're going to just like, be like, oh, it's like this character is going to be equipped with like, I don't know, 2 to 4 uniques. And then the rest of them are going to be like pieces of like statted exalted gear probably.
Okay.
The exalted gear kind of just being like, better gear with like better stats on it.
All right. Matt, you're selling me on the loot aspect. But if there's one other thing I like about a good ARPG, I guess comes in a 2-parter. That first part is attacks that just look insane. Attacks that are a spectacle to look at with things flying all around you. And then 2, as a companion, Matt, I like to see the numbers go up. So how's the actual gameplay and combat? And Matt, do the numbers go up?
Jaren, okay. I think the first one I want to touch is the numbers. Jaren,
Right.
the numbers in this game don't really like scale to like really crazy amounts, which I think I kind of like right now at the beginning of the game. Like you're really scaling from, single digit, double digit damage to like 5 or 6 digit damage. Like that's kind of like
I
the scaling
appreciate
that it's
that.
going through. Like I really like that. For the the kind of flashiness of the skills, Jaren, it really does depend on like how you're playing, or like what skills you're choosing. Because like I think I guess like more so than the flashiness of the skill, I think that the animations they're using for the skills, for the most part, matches the feel of your character. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, like as a necromancer, you're never going to really have any like huge flashy things, but they do kind of like, give oomph to when you're summoning a like golem or something as it like comes out of the ground. They have oomph when they like, kind of like jump towards the enemies that they're trying to attack. Like I think a lot of the animations and stuff very well fit the theme of the the character itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think the one thing that I don't like with regards to their animations is that you can't turn down other players' animations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can't like, because sometimes like if I'm playing like with Kevin for example, we're doing just kind of like a lot of stuff on screen, and it's sometimes like his animations and my animations all playing at once is a very, it's really lighting your screen up in a way that it's like kind of uncomfortable.
Okay.
So like at that point, I wish it had the option to like, kind of like make somebody else's like animations a bit more transparent, so that like I can see my stuff like a bit more.
Right.
Because like for example, like I need to be like, oh, I need to be inside smoke, or I need to be able to see like these like things that I'm dropping to see if an enemy is like close enough to trigger it or not. Like it's that sort of thing. And then with Kevin like throwing fireballs everywhere, it's a bit of like it's a lot to look at on the screen.
Right. So it could lead into readability issues.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. Like at some point, lead into readability
All
issues.
right. That's unfortunate, especially when you have to be kind of precise with your skills.
But like, I think it is because of kind of how they're doing their cash shop in this game. Kind of weirdly, like this game is like $30 to go in, and then they'll also have like a cash shop for costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
But their cash shop does have like some kind of interesting visual stuff to it. Like it lets you change your town portal, lets you change your kind of like characters. What do you call it? Like just transmog stuff. And I think that it does very much seem like they're going to go down the route where you're going to be able to change your spell effects, like kind of like the colors of it. So I think like that might be why there isn't really a toning down of other characters' abilities.
Fair.
I mean, like overall, this game is a very very fun like loot treadmill.
Yeah.
I think the end game for this is like pretty interesting. It lets you target what you want to do, in terms of like what you're looking for very nicely. It has like the kind of a sort of similar system to like Diablo 3, for example, where you're kind of just like in this place where you randomly generate the map. It has a random kind of quest in it, whether it's like, oh, kill these enemies and then go kill the boss that spawns, or do a King of the Hill sort of thing in this area, or eliminate just like X amount of enemies in this area, or like there's waves of enemies coming, make sure you don't die, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it has a lot of like kind of like variance in there for what you want to do. And the nice thing about it is that it had this like system is driven by this kind of like this just like this kind of like node based system. It's very rogue-likey.
Not
where
speaking my language.
Where like at the end game you kind of like start at this central node, you have like two nodes coming off of it, and like the nodes are like, okay, if you complete this without dying, hey, you get, I don't know, an additional like 10 drops of rings. Or if you go this way, you get like, oh, more experience. And then every time you finish one, it'll spawn two more, and eventually you just have like a whole web of kind of like quests that you can kind of push towards to get what you want at that moment.
Right.
And I think, Jaren, very interestingly, one thing that is like very, I think, unique about this game is that at the end of the campaign, or not the end, but like kind of close to the end of the campaign, you are able to pick a faction. And this kind of determines how you can get loot for this character later on. Because the two factions are the Circle of Fortune and the Merchants Guild. And what these two things do is basically decide if you're going to get loot for your character by yourself, or if you're going to trade for your loot. Because what the Merchants Guild does is that once you become a part of the Merchants Guild, you gain access to the bazaar. And that is basically just like your typical video game auction house kind of mechanic. And, as you level up your status in the Merchants Guild, you're able to sell more different stuff, buy more or different stuff, and, kind of just like trade more freely, as you wish.
Okay.
And then, interestingly, on the Circle of Fortune side, what that does is that it basically just removes your ability to trade with other players, except for like people that you're like in a party with at the time that an item drops. Like if you're like on the same map and then playing with them co-op at that time, you can trade with them. But otherwise, things that drop for you, you cannot trade. In exchange, your personal drop rate is like increased to a ridiculous amount.
Matt, do you prefer that over traditional trading, or?
Personally, for me, I do. I went with the Circle of Fortune because I never really really cared too much about auction houses and stuff within games like like PoE or even like WoW and stuff like that. Whereas in Circle of Fortune, it even gives you more ways to get your gear through these things called like constellations, where it's like, oh, a constellation is like, oh, if you can go and kill this boss, it's basically bounties. Like, hey, go kill this boss, and you'll get a drop of like, you know, 2 unique rings. Or if you go like complete this dungeon, you'll get a drop of 2 unique swords. But like it costs stuff to get these like prophecies so that
Of
you can get
course.
these items.
But
But like I think the system itself is very interesting, and I don't know, it really lets you decide how social you want to be in the game.
I don't know, Matt, the way you're describing this game, there's a lot of quality of life things that I'm actually really impressed by hearing.
Mm-hmm. But Jaren, before you get too excited, there are like 2 things that I really don't like about this
Oh
game.
no. Okay, hit me, Matt.
Okay. So Jaren, I think for me, this is like a very, very personal thing where after you complete the campaign once, like on a character, if you make another character, you aren't able to kind of just like skip the campaign and go into the equivalent of like adventure mode where you're kind of just,
Mm,
doing the kind of like killing stuff content.
yeah.
I am personally not a fan that you cannot just like fully skip the campaign. There is a way to shorten that campaign on your alternate characters, but to be honest, like that still really isn't doing it for me. I feel like it it's just like, putting a buffer between you really like me wanting to really play a character and kind of just like busy work,
Yeah.
which I don't really like.
That's fair.
And Jaren, towards the end, when you're, really, really trying to squeeze the most out of your gear, it becomes very RNG, and you can like brick an item, which I don't really like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Matt, that sounds like it feels bad.
Yeah, that like it does feel pretty bad. Like I guess like brick might be too strong a word, but it is possible to, kind of just like lose out on a resource because one of the kind of things in this themes in this game, Jaren, is time travel.
Yeah.
And one of the kind of like things that you do towards the end game in terms of gear is that you can take a piece of unique gear and like a high tier like exalted item, which just has just like has a bunch of like stats on it, and you're able to move one of the stats from the exalted item onto your unique item,
Hmm.
but the stat that moves is random. And like kind of the way they're doing it is like, oh yeah, you leave these 2 items in here, then you like travel to the future, and then you see like what your item became
Yeah.
over time.
Okay.
And since it's pulling randomly from one of 4 things, you either are just like praying that it's gonna get what you want, or you're like like I said, like it has a lot of ways for you to mitigate some RNG. So if you put in an item that has a lot of stats that you don't really like care which one it's gonna pull, it has a lot of good stats, you are like mitigating a lot of your RNG.
Hmm.
But Jaren, there was always one that you really wanted on there.
Yeah, of
And
course.
but like you are able to like kind of soft mitigate it that way. But I think that is a point that I don't know if like a lot of people are going to be like really, really getting to. I think like even the journey to that point is all like very, very good though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually really impressed with the game. Again, it's those quality of life things that I really do like to see from this genre that honestly I never would have thought of, but it's really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
final question, final question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How's your fashion game, Matt? How does your character look?
I kind of like the way that the game kind of is designing its items. It does have that kind of thing where every time you change your item, it changes your overall look.
Hmm.
Oh, Jared, you know what? I think I thought of one thing that you in particular are not gonna like about this game, Jaren. The classes are gender locked.
Oh no. No, not like Matt, not like
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
like this.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, Matt, it seems like you're enjoying it. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
how crushed are you that you have to kind of put it down for the next 4 weeks?
Jerry, can I be honest with you?
Yes.
I've been like, for reasons I've been considering just like getting a laptop to bring to Japan, just because like I think that would like make my life easier in some regards.
Yeah.
And Last Epoch is one of the reasons that I thought, maybe it would be good to. Last Epoch is a definitely a reason for me to get a laptop to bring to Japan.
Oh man, Matt, you're in too deep. You're in too deep now, Matt.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
sounds good, Matt. Sounds good. So,
hmm
last epoch, is this early access, Matt, or just full
It
release?
has been no, it full release. It came out of early access at like the end of February, I believe.
Okay, fair, Matt.
hmm
Actual final question.
hmm
Uh, since you are also a Diablo boy, what quality of life things, or what's one quality of life thing from the last epoch that you would want to see put into Diablo 4? And what's one quality of life thing that you can definitely see coming to Diablo 4?
Oh, I don't know, Jared. Like, I think that the things that like quality of life improvements that Last Epoch has all like kind of like build into Last Epoch's kind of like I guess like design philosophies
Okay, fair.
that like bringing them into Diablo 4 would be like very weird.
Okay.
But man, I know I definitely wish that the quality of life of in Diablo 4 where you can just, skip the campaign for a character was brought into Last Epoch.
Right. Do you think that's something that we can see in the future, or?
I don't know. Like they've said, the devs themselves have said, like, oh, we have like a that kind of like thing that shortens the campaign, and that's like kind of what they want to stick with. But I'll be honest, Jaren. While I like playing my like high level characters, whenever I have to like spin up an alt, it is so just boring because I don't want to do the campaign, and
Right.
it kills a lot of my drive to make a second character
Yeah,
or
I know
another character. Yeah.
personally when I guess adventure mode was it wasn't at launch during Diablo 3, correct?
No, I don't think it came out until Reaper of Souls.
Yeah. Where I think I did buy Diablo 3 close to launch, but
hmm
relatively fell off. But with that announcement of adventure mode, I think with me, it's something you kind of mentioned the other week where, you don't like replaying story modes.
hmm
And I'm mostly the same way, with the rare exception where, especially with for all intents and purposes, a podcast game, like
hmm
a Diablo, like an ARPG, I kind of just want to get to clicking and not really have to go through these set missions. Because, Matt, when you say there's bounties, when there's like world events, I think that's more so my jam rather than,
hmm
oh, I need
hmm
to go find Lilith or whatever. But, Matt, last epoch,
last epoch, I think.
last epoch available now. Matt, how much is this going for?
This game is like $45 Canadian.
Okay, not bad. That
hmm
not
hmm
bad. But if you're looking to scratch that ARPG itch with some really interesting changes to that tried and true formula, Matt, do you
hmm
give it a recommend?
I definitely give this game a recommend.
All right, so check it out on Steam. And Matt,
hmm
speaking about cool looking games, I'm
hmm
really stretching it when it comes to segues right now. There was
uh,
a Xbox partner preview event last week. Their Xbox partner preview, March 2024, and I think a dozen games were shown off, a few new titles announced, and we're not going to kind of get into all of them, but there were a handful of games that definitely caught the attention of both of us.
hmm
And I think the preview event ended with um, Kunitsu Gama, Path of the. Sorry, did I say Gama? My bad, Matt. Kunitsugami, Path of the
hmm
Goddess, coming to Game Pass in 2024, I believe. Matt, this is from Capcom, is it not? Yep,
Yes, I
it is.
believe it is.
It is from Capcom, day one release with Game Pass as well on Xbox Series X and S and Windows sometime this year in 2024. And
hmm
I think I can see why this would be the game you ended the preview event on because Matt, I
Hmm.
know this was shown, I believe, last summer for the first time. This is
Yes.
definitely a pretty looking game.
Hmm.
Uh, I know, I don't want to say it gives me Akami vibes because, of course, this doesn't look like Akami, but the
I was thinking
colors,
Onimusha.
Onimusha, definitely. But
Hmm.
I think the Akami grab for me is just how vibrant some of the colors look, especially
Yes.
in some of
Yes.
the, um, you know, well lit areas that they shown off. Some of the monster design or enemy design was really, fantastical as well. But
Hmm. Hmm.
Matt, I
Hmm.
know afterwards Capcom released like a 6-minute gameplay breakdown. And,
Yes.
the initial preview that they showed during, this partner direct.
Hmm.
Matt,
Hmm.
I think I need to watch that 6-minute preview because I had it on in the background and
Uh huh.
it's
Uh huh.
one of those things you need to pay attention to because I'm still not sure what this game is because when you see it during just a basic trailer for it, at first I thought, oh, is this going to be a character action game, or oh, is this going to be a hunter game? But then I'm seeing
Hmm.
elements of what reminds me of tower defense. I'm seeing elements of what reminds me of potentially Pikmin, where there
Yeah.
seems to be a lot going on, and I'm not necessarily sure what this game is. But again, this seems like a perfect Game Pass game where
Hmm.
if this was a traditional, character action game, I think I would be looking to it closely. But seeing this mixed bag of a game that I'm not necessarily sure how it plays, I think with it being a Game Pass game, this is definitely something that I would try to freeload, that I would want to
Hmm.
check out day one,
Hmm.
because it's potentially out of my wheelhouse, but it does look
Hmm.
really interesting. Matt, what did you think of Kinitsu?
So, Jeremy, when I first saw this game, like last year, whenever it was that it did get shown, I was very interested in it. I thought the visuals were very like appealing. The kind of like I guess like gameplay that they alluded to within this game looked very interesting. A lot about it was like screaming to me that like, hey, this might be something I enjoy. And then I watched that like 6 minute video that you're talking about, Jaren,
Yeah,
and I became like very turned off of this game.
really? What specifically?
Maybe turned off is a bit too strong of a
Yeah.
word, but like I became a lot more like hesitant towards this game.
Okay. Anything in particular?
Hmm. So the game itself is divided into, or like from what we've seen, is divided into day and night cycles,
Hmm.
where at night you're fighting whatever they named their demons, and during the day you're kind of like doing almost like management stuff of like you're saying like the kind of Pikmin stuff. You're leading the priestess towards Torii gates that she has to purify. You're kind of setting up the villagers that you save as kind of just like helpers for you. And I don't know, Jaren, the daytime management stuff looks like it could be interesting, but the way it was presented, it looked so dry and boring for
Hmm.
me,
Okay.
where it it immediately gave me like that sort of vibe where it's like, oh, this could just like be something that's I'm not interested in, or it could also very easily be one of those this is so boring to watch but so interesting to do
Right.
type things. And then the nighttime stuff, I guess like the combat itself just didn't look as crazy to me as I was expecting, because I was expecting something that's like very like you were saying character actiony, but it falls between looking sort of methodical and sort of character actiony in like a weird way for me.
Okay.
Hmm.
Where okay, I really do need to pay attention to that 6-minute video as well. But I think this speaks to how this seems like such a good Game Pass game
Yes.
where
Yeah.
even if the in-depth videos aren't necessarily that enticing, at least
Hmm.
if you're subscribed to the service, it is still something that, doesn't hurt to check out. Where Matt, games are expensive. As we said, Capcom with Dragon's Dogma being like 95 before
Oh
taxes
man,
here.
yeah.
I
Ugh.
think being able to check something like Kimetsu out day one on Game Pass is something that I'm actually looking forward to. Where if
Mm-hmm.
I saw the price, maybe with something with a game that I'm not 100% sold on, it would be harder for me to actually, pay full price. But with the subscription, this is definitely something more on my radar than,
Mm-hmm.
uh, unfortunately, that's just the times right now where you kind of have to
Mm-hmm.
be selective with kind of your disposable income. So really excited to see this on Game Pass and to check it out
Mm-hmm.
when it launches. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that surprised me was the I guess we all saw it, but they announced the Persona 3 Reload
Ugh.
expansion pass.
Uh-huh.
We have Matt.
Uh-huh.
I'm not here for these weak expansion passes, and like I said this during the Splatoon expansion pass, where Wave One was the lobby from Splatoon 1, and then Wave 2 was
Yeah.
the side order DLC.
Yeah.
Where when I see the Persona 3 Reload expansion pass, I'm seeing, okay, BGM March 12th. I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing Velvet Room costumes in BGM in May.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're finally seeing episode, The Answer in September, where
Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I hate padded expansion passes. I don't consider, now this is going to sound harsh, I don't consider BGMs, I don't consider lobbies, I don't consider costumes actual content. Like, that's padding to me, where
Mm-hmm.
I think the most surprising thing, however, was this was included with Game Pass, which I don't necessarily think we've seen that many instances of, hey, here's DLC just kind of included with Game Pass, which I found really that makes me or that makes it more enticing. But at the same time, I'm not here for the BGM, I'm not here for the costumes. But
Mm-hmm.
given the new life that Persona 3 has found with, Reload, I'm actually curious to see what the reception to episode Aegis is, the answer, because Matt,
Uh-huh.
if you're going into the answer thinking more Persona, that's not what the answer is. So
Yeah.
I considering again with the second life, with the positive reception Persona 3 Reload's getting, I'm just really curious to see how those fans react. How the new fans react to this DLC. And I know I like to kind of, just get your thoughts on some of the rumor mills, the things making their way around. But, take this with a grain of salt, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
where there was some rumblings, this week that when it comes to future Persona games, their Atlas is less likely to look at, the real release, the Goldens, the Royal, but more so take this expansion pass strategy of, some bonus content and then having your quote unquote additional story to the end of it. Where
Mm-hmm.
how do you, if the Persona 3 Reload expansion pass is any indication, Matt, what do you think of that switch or that potential switch for future Persona games?
I mean, for future Persona games, I feel like that's okay. I think for me, it depends on what the price point is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they kind of just let you buy the parts that you want from the pass, I think I'm okay with that because then it just becomes like normal DLC.
Yeah.
But if you have to buy the full pass, I don't like that, Jaren.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, Jaren, I kind of hated seeing like this expansion pass as a whole.
Really? Yeah.
Because like I remember like back when we were talking about Persona 3 Reload at the very start, they had mentioned, hey, like the answer, the Fez stuff isn't going to be in this. And I was like, oh, that's like a weird thing to like exclude, like, when it's already like written out and everything. And to see that like this is what they're putting in their expansion pass, it just feels honestly, Jaren, like I think that if you're playing this through Game Pass, maybe it feels better. But I feel like if you're one of the people who bought this through Steam, that's probably feels like shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it feels so, yeah, no, something about it just, it feels so bad to me
Mm-hmm.
that I I don't like that this happened.
Right. It's fair, man. That's fair. I personally don't like how uh Matt, when I saw
Uh-huh.
expansion pass and then I saw, the answer and then I saw the three sections, I'm like, okay, Matt, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
say um answer in September and then we're gonna get portable story. We're gonna get our female protagonist back. She's coming home. Matt, she's not
Uh-huh.
coming home.
No, no.
And I think that's what especially put the salt in the wound of one. Atlas doesn't like the Persona 3 female protagonist. I get she's not
Mm-hmm.
canon. She technically doesn't exist. She exists in here, Matt. I'm pointing to my heart. But
Uh-huh.
again, to see it padded with costumes and music. But yeah, I kind of get what you mean, Matt, where this what I don't know. I do like the idea of just having your expansions be DLC rather than, hey, we're just going to release another game that you're going to pay full price for. But again, Matt, I'm just curious to see what precedent this might kind of set in the future because let's be honest, Matt, Atlas is
Mm-hmm.
no stranger to nickeling and diming their audience with DLC. So
Yeah.
even if they do go down the route of expansion pass rather than updated re-release, I'm curious to see how padded these expansion passes get and if the actual beefy content that's in it, how substantial that feels in comparison to what we've seen with Gold and in comparison to what we've seen with the Royals. So I guess that's
Mm-hmm.
something that only time will tell. And hopefully we'll be seeing some Persona 6. But Matt,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
moving on, something else that caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this was from like the Dungeon Fighter universe, and that was the first Berserker, Kazan, where two things, Matt. One,
Mm-hmm.
this gave me this is definitely going to scratch that Code Vein itch, that anime adjacent Souls like that maybe not reach the quality of a From title, but still able to get you somewhere there. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason I wanted to bring this up, Matt, was watching the trailer on the Xbox preview or partner preview. I thought, Matt, was it just me or was that trailer really choppy?
Yeah, Jaren, I think overall that was a bad trailer.
Hmm.
Like, not to say that the game is bad, but I think as a trailer, that was a rough watch. I
Yeah,
think.
because again, I have such an affinity for Code Vein. It's giving me Code Vein vibes, so I do want to check this out. But at the same time, I was
Mhm.
confused of, is this just was this video just like rendered poorly? Is this actually the frame rate of the game where it made as much as I want to check it out, I was kind of confused by the whole thing.
Mhm.
Just from a production standpoint, where it looked like your typical not from Souls like game, but at the same time, I was just thinking, is this intentional? Why does it look like this? But
Mhm.
that's kind
Mhm.
of just me, Matt. Unfortunate, and I don't know, not the group best first impression, but I don't know. I'll most likely check it out. But Matt,
Yeah.
was there
Mhm. Mhm.
anything else from the Xbox partner preview that you wanted to eventually check out?
I mean, Jaren, I I'm really hoping that Monster Jam Showdown is some nice dumb fun.
That for some
Mhm.
reason I was really into Monster Jam Showdown.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It looked fun. Like, it just genuinely looked like it would be a fun game to play.
I like
Just
that. I
Mhm.
used to be so into monster trucks growing up. And again, speaking about hashtag youth, this,
Mhm.
I don't know. I like me a good arcadey game, and this
Mhm.
seems to be
Mhm.
a good arcadey game. Plus,
Mhm.
that monster
Mhm.
trucks these seem pretty cool at least.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Jaren, I this is not even particularly youth. We were like, I'm pretty sure, like, pretty grown at this point. Jaren, I want Excite Truck again.
That Excite Truck was really fun. I'm Matt, why doesn't Nintendo go back to the Excite moniker?
I don't know, man.
I
It
feel
makes
like
me
it's
sad.
ripe for a good downloadable. Matt,
Mm-hmm.
give me Excite 99.
Oh man.
That has to be on the drawing board somewhere. Matt,
Oh,
I'm
without.
assuming every classic Nintendo game has a 99 equivalent at least on a drawing board.
Do you think Excite Bike 99 like works?
I think it
Because
works.
isn't that like all horizontal?
Yes.
And you could, or not horizontal, but like, like 2D, like left to right. Like I think like 99 worked for F-Zero because there was like that 3D-ness to it.
So Matt,
But
you're saying Super Mario Kart 99.
Super Mario Kart 99, I think would be like good. I feel like if they didn't do F-Zero 99, Super Mario Kart 99 would have been the play. Jaren, I think I honestly would prefer Excite Truck 99 because I feel like that would be even more chaotic since you can change the terrain in that game.
Matt,
Hmm.
for some reason, when I'm a child, for some reason I thought, do you think a Switch 2 would be strong enough to handle Excite Truck 99? But at the same time, I immediately thought, oh, maybe they can dumb it down or like scale it back down to like Excite Truck 69. And then I giggled to
Nice.
myself because
Nice,
I'm a
nice, nice.
child. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
going back to Xbox for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
there was a new game reveal, Sleight of Hand, and
Yes.
this was a CG trailer, which didn't necessarily give me much to look forward to. Matt, I think the
Mm-hmm.
YouTube description made me look forward to this more than the trailer because I'm just gonna say it.
Mm-hmm.
2004,
Uh-huh.
I'm not a fan of CG trailers anymore.
Oh yeah,
I
same,
want to
same.
see gameplay. I want to see what your game is, but
Mm-hmm.
the sleight of hand YouTube video, its description reads: infiltrate the hard boiled, rain slicked city of Taboo, where ritual magic and cursed artifacts set apart those with power from those without. Sleight of Hand is a third person stealth action deck builder about taking down the
Oh,
coven
what?
you used to run with.
Oh man.
Matt?
Jaren, I knew she had like cards as her like
Yes.
source of magic. I'm genuinely surprised that the word deck builder is in the description for this game.
Because, Matt, when I looked at the CG trailer, again, no gameplay, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, she's like Gambit, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But then when I read the description, it said third person stealth action. Okay, I'm with you.
Uh-huh.
Deck builder.
Yeah.
Where like what type of deck builder is this? And how does that incorporate to third person stealth action? Where
Mm-hmm.
is this similar to maybe like a Midnight Suns where when you engage, you pull from your deck? Is it kind of
Uh
similar to like Neon White where you're technically cycling through a deck of weapons or whatever? Where I think
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
again the description made me more intrigued, but at the same time it made me more annoyed that there wasn't actual gameplay because now you said the magic words, Matt. You said third person. Oh, okay, not necessarily third person. You said stealth action, and then you said duck builder. So I want to see what this actually looks
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully it's like up my alley because like aesthetically, I like the. I just like the vibe it's presenting, but
Mm-hmm.
I really need to see what they mean by deck builder. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Matt, anything else
Mm-hmm.
from the partner preview that caught your attention?
I think probably the one that like caught my attention the most in terms of its concept is the altars. Jen, did you like pay attention to like this trailer in particular? Or?
I did, but to be honest, Matt, I don't think this might be for me.
The thing is that like I think in terms of like actual gameplay, the game doesn't really seem like honestly all that interesting.
Yeah.
To me, like the gameplay looks like it's about resource collecting and then like going into a kind of like side viewed. Oh, what was the name of that Fallout mobile game?
Oh, Fallout Shelter.
Yeah, going into like a Fallout shelter kind of thing. I think it's just that the premise is very interesting to me. This like guy summoning alternate universes versions of himself where he's made different choices in life and that's like what is going to pop out on the other end to
Yeah,
help him.
I think at least the story makes me really
Yes.
interested in seeing it. I'm not necessarily like it's described as a unique blend of adventure, survival, and base building. That
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm more so a fan of third person action, stealth action deck builder.
Hmm.
But yeah, like the wrapping around the altars
Yeah.
is something that I wish it was a different type of game for me. But again, I think, playing off the alternate versions of yourself does lend itself to that survival base building aspect. But yeah, I think it's just that gameplay itself is not for me.
Yeah, yeah. The concept is like far more interesting for me.
Which I don't know. Maybe it does come to Game Pass, so maybe it might be something to check out. But I don't know, Matt. I guess it's on Game Pass. I wouldn't. Same thing with Kinitsu. It doesn't hurt to check out. But yeah, Matt. What else? Just going real quick, Matt. Tales of Kinzera Zhao looks really good,
Man,
but
yeah, Jaren, like I feel like this has come up on like almost every single like direct or showcase
yeah,
across like every platform for like the past little while, and we never really talk about it. But Jaren, this game looks like genuinely good. Like I genuinely do want to play this game. It reminds me a lot of like like I guess like Ori and just any other kind of Metroidvania. Actually, like very Guacamelee feeling for me as well. But
I know I've gone, I've told you on the Mistake Zone in the past that Metroidvania is not necessarily for me, but Tales of Kinzara, I can definitely see what I don't know. It makes me really interested in checking it out. Plus, given that earlier this year, Prince of Persia, I feel like we're in a good place of just that genre where a lot of quality titles coming out where I'll be honest, I've been kind of burned on the indie side of it. So maybe I need to kind of see what some of the bigger publishers are putting out. But yeah, definitely something that also caught my attention and also kind of made me think, oh, maybe I should check out that new Prince of Persia as well. But yeah, Matt, other games were announced, but nothing necessarily. Again, some things that looked cool, but not necessarily either my vibe or like the gameplay to back it up. But a pretty solid Xbox partner preview. Really excited to see some of the titles coming to Xbox Game Pass as well. But Matt, another a beefier episode than I thought.
yes,
Started with a bit down, but Matt, through the power of friendship and talking about our mistakes, I'm in a better mood now, so I want to thank you, as always, for joining me this week and editing this podcast.
Yo, Jared, I want to thank you for not electrocuting yourself.
Thanks, Matt. I tried. I really did try. But Matt, as we said, top of the show, this is our last, I guess, proper episode. I know that, as I said before, the next 4 episodes might be a little weird. Who knows what would be happening in the world of games, anime, or in general. So if we don't comment on something spicy, it's because anything for the next 4 weeks has been, recorded previously. So I guess we'll be back with proper episodes, I guess, when you return, Matt. And even that episode will be just kind of just us talking about, your adventures, which I'm really, really looking forward to, Matt Alba. Matt, hope you, Rakush, and Kevin have a great time. Matt, stay safe, have fun. And Matt, if you find yourself in Akihabara, I can keep an eye out on some stuff. I'll message you about later.
Yeah,
on.
I got you, Jared, I got you.
Man. But Matt, again, Mistake Zone about to have a hiatus, but again, some episodes to share with our friends in the meantime. So, gotta ask you, Matt, you hinted at it last week, so let's end it off in this note, Matt. Have you prepped what you're going to do on the plane yet?
I am planning on watching a lot of movies. Actually, I kind of looked through what movies they have. Jaren, they have Wonka, and I'm like really interested in seeing Wonka. I started up Balatro, Jaren, I think I'm gonna definitely play a couple rounds of at least a couple rounds of Balatro on my plane rides. And I think, Jaren, I'm gonna also go through Phoenix Wright while I'm in the air. Hopefully,
fair, Matt. That's fair, Matt. That's some solid entertainment. Actually, Matt, do you mind if I do some quick hits real quick?
Oh yeah, do it up.
Matt, I started Wonka as well. I think I enjoyed it. I need to get back to it. I watched like the first 15 minutes. Matt, I watched most of the Mean Girls musical movie that came out recently.
Oh, right. I need to watch that too.
Matt,
Damn. Uh-huh.
not gonna lie, the whole time I was watching it, I thought Matt would enjoy this movie because Matt.
Okay, nice.
I think it's pretty good on the musical front, but for me personally, as someone who thinks Mean Girls is top 3 comfort movies, Matt, even though they're just like direct callbacks from the original Mean Girls, every callback they do.
Ugh.
Matt, I smiled. I feel like the casting is great for the characters, and it is modernized in a way I really appreciate. Matt, you should definitely check out Mean Girls, or whatever it's called, if you can, for your plane ride. Matt, download the Princess Peach Showtime demo.
Ooh, okay.
And
okay.
quick hits. Don't try to start that demo when it's 1 a.m. and you're a sleepy boy.
Okay.
But
okay.
I was really confused of how this game would play, but Matt, this is from what I played, the little I played. Yep, this is definitely a side scroller. But Matt, at least in the early of the level that I played, it's one of those. It's like a how do I describe this? 2D 2.5D in that it's still a side scroller, but it's kind of 3D in a way where you can move kind of, up and down on the plane. But I feel like that plane isn't big enough to really utilize it. So I'm not sure why it isn't just a direct. Maybe the game will open up, but I felt like the plane is too small for you to be able to, move horizontally. I mean, vertically as well as horizontally. So I think that threw me off. But maybe I'll get back to it when I'm not sleepy. But yeah, Matt. I guess we're signing off from the Mistake Zone for now.
Yes. For now.
So Matt, again, safe trip, have fun, and please take it away.
This has been Mistake Zone, and for the next little while, we're out of our regularly recorded Mistake Zone episodes.
And hopefully out of electrocuting myself.